Hi everyone, Jessica here and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be showing you how I go about making a light up card, and I'm going to be using the Science Geeks stamp set from Kindred Stamps in this video. This is a new release for them for January. If you would like to skip the ink blending for this card and go straight into making this a light up card portion, I will have the timestamp up above for you to skip to. So first I did start making the background for this card, and I'm just going to do some ink blending with Distress inks. I have 4 colors: Picked Raspberry, Candied Apple, Squeezed Lemonade, and Salty Ocean. They're all very bright, bold colors, and I'm going to be blending those 4 colors on a piece of Bristol Smooth cardstock. Just real quick about the Distress inks, I am only using 4 colors, but I can get a whole bunch of different colors out of using these ones because they blend so well together. So I can also blend the yellow and the blue together to get some green, yellow and red to make orange. Once I got a nice coverage down, I went ahead and I used some water to make these really large blobs, and then I soaked it up right away with a paper towel. Since the Distress inks react with water, this will actually create some really large light spots. And then I'm going to ink blend over the top, tap on some more water, just finer droplets this time, and then heat set it. And those finer droplets that I don't pick up with the paper towel will actually have a darker ring around them, and it'll just add a little bit of interest. I like the way it looks combining both. The Science Geek stamp set has 7 characters. There's 4 males and 3 female characters. I took 3 of the male characters. I stamped the first one first, and then I did a masking technique with him where I had stamped him on a piece of masking paper, trimmed that out, and then placed that over my stamped image. Then I took the other 2 Science Geeks that I'm using, placed one on each side of him, the left and the right, and then stamped those to where just a portion of them is over top the masking paper. I did a video using another Kindred Stamps stamp set that shows a bit more on how to do the masking. I'll have that linked below. I did go ahead and I cut out the coloring portion of this card, but I did just use my Copic markers, and I'll have the colors that I used listed below if you're interested, and also on my blog. So to get into the light up portion of this whole project, I went ahead and I had purchased the Chibitronics. So it comes with this little spiral notebook. You can make all kinds of things with this notebook, but I'm just going to use it as basically a diagram. I'm going to do a simple parallel circuit. But first I do have to stamp the front panel of my card. That way I know where to put the lights and where I'm going to put the characters. This stamp set does have a sentiment stamp in it that says, "You matter unless you multiply yourself by the speed of light squared, then you energy." And I thought that was really funny to use with the lights. I did cut this stamp all apart. So the "you matter," that sentiment, and the little science icon are actually all part of one stamp. I just cut out the "you matter" to place on the top part of the card, and then I cut the rest of the sentiment and the icon apart so that I could use that science icon above each of my 3 characters. And I'm going to stamp these with some Gina K inks. I'm using Blue Raspberry, Wild Dandelion, and Red Velvet, and that is where my lights will be. So with the Chibitronics light kit, you do get some white lights. You also get red, yellow, and blue lights. So I thought that would be fun and would work well with the colored ink that I used. To make the lights show through the cardstock a little better, I'm also going to punch a hole in the middle of each science icon. I have this really small paper punch that I bought a long time ago that's just the perfect size that I'm going to use for this. You could also just use a paper piercer. That would work the same too. And I'm going to punch each of the colored icons with this hole punch, but I'm going to leave the one on the very bottom, the black one, alone, because that is going to be where my card recipient will actually push so the lights turn on. Now that I have the holes marked, I can take my cardstock, my back panel cardstock, and use a pencil to mark where the holes line up on the back side. I'm also going to mark where that black icon is too, so I know where to put the battery. This is a quick view of what comes in the Chibitronics set that I have. So my first step is to create a battery housing. So I just took a piece of scrap cardstock and folded it in half. And this, I just made sure that the cardstock was a bit bigger than my battery. I'm going to adhere that right where that mark is for my push icon. And I'm also going to write positive and negative on it. That way I know which side is which. When I lay my battery down, the negative side is on the bottom and then the positive side is on the top. I'm going to start drawing my circuits. Nothing too fancy. Try not to make too many corners, because corners are kind of hard to do with this copper tape. I do use a bone folder to help make those corners a little bit easier. You can kind of use it to help that copper tape fold over on itself. This is really thin and it tears super easy. But I'm just going to follow my little drawing there, not exactly, but close enough. Just trying to make sure that I hit each one of those light points. Unfortunately, with this one, I did fall a little short. I didn't have enough tape. So I'm going to take a small piece and add it just over the top to finish off that line. It does say in the booklet that you can do this. Now I'm going to start with my positive line. This is going to go from the inside of that flap to where the battery is, over the top, and then up to each light mark. I'm going to do the exact same thing, use my bone folder to help with the corners. These corners were a little more sloppy than the first ones. So now I can start placing my lights. On these lights, these are the colored lights. These do have a letter for red, blue, or yellow. That way you know which was which. With these ones, I don't know if they all are like this, but with these certain lights, the pointy side is the negative side, and then the bottom portion, the longer strip there, is the positive side. So when you're placing your lights, you just want to make sure that the negative point hits the negative circuit line and the positive side hits the positive circuit line. You don't want those touching both sides or the wrong side, because you might harm your lights or your battery. That second light I did have backwards, so I realized that and quickly fixed it. And now I can put my battery in and see if the lights turn on. And it looks like they work, except for that blue one. It just needs to be pushed down a little bit more to get a better connection. I'm going to turn off my lights real quick, that way you can see the LEDs a little better. So once everything checks out, I can start adding the foam tape. And this is what will separate this back panel and the front panel. That way when you push down where the battery housing is, it has a bit of a give and will connect both the positive and negative lines to that battery to create the circuit. So my foam tape is actually pretty thick and I only have to double stack it. So some other brands of foam tape, you might have to actually stack it 3 times. So it depends on how thick your foam tape is and what the size of your battery is. If your battery is extra thick for some reason, then you might need to add more foam tape. If it's really thin, then just add less. You just want your foam tape to be just higher than your battery. So I'm going to start placing the foam tape around my battery first to create that housing. Testing it while I do to make sure that everything is still connected correctly. And then I can start placing that foam tape all the way around the card. So I do the edges first and then I can fill in from there. Just don't place foam tape over the top of your lights, because then they wouldn't show through. In the pictures, you can see exactly where the foam tape is placed around the batteries. If you are a little wary of that, you could make sure that you place your foam tape in a way around the batteries to where they are more similar than mine are. But that's all up to you. So once I was done placing the foam tape, I can take off that backing paper and add that front panel on top. And then I use some adhesive to adhere down my background that I had ink blended earlier onto a Nina 110 pound solar white card base. This is a top fold one. Then I'm going to take the back side. I know it looks very similar to the front side. I'm going to take the back side of that light panel and then adhere that to the middle of my background. Also making sure that the lights still work. And then I'm going to take my 3 Science Geeks, add adhesive to them, and place them just over the top of the sentiment at the bottom of this card. So the final step is to just add a bit of a shadow to their feet. That way they're not just hovering. If you have any questions or comments, please go ahead and leave them below. I really hope you enjoyed this. I think this is just a fun and interactive card design, and I really hope you've been enjoying the January release from Kindred Stamps. And I can't wait to see what you all make with the Science Geek stamp set. That's it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I appreciate you, and I will see you in the next one. Meh, meh.